Hello and welcome along to this week's UFC Fight Night picks and predictions breakdown. We're going to be breaking down the weekend's UFC Fight Night Garry Prates main card in its entirety, giving our picks and predictions. I'm Jordan from Smash NOA. I'm joined by Silk Pyjamas co-founder and co-creator, Mr. JPL Hooper. What's happening, JP? How are you doing?
Nice, man. That was very professional. Fair play, mate. Yeah, I'm really good. Really good. Excited to be here. Thanks.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Right, let's get straight into it then. So, kicking off the main card, and we've got Ikram Aliskerov taking on Andre Muniz. What do you think of this one? Where are you thinking it might go?
Well, Ikram Aliskerov is a beast. I think we all know that. His recent loss to Whitaker, that was like a weird timing. Like a weird time to fight because I think he was scheduled to fight the week before. So that might be something to kind of think about from like a betting perspective, how much that would mess with somebody's like psychology, how it can affect like the delay of having to step in and fight a guy and like try and beat up a guy like Robert Whitaker. So I think um I think from a betting perspective, it's quite interesting that Andre Muniz is like so big. He's 4-1, which is, I mean, pretty crazy to me. If you're looking for an outside bet, I think it's worth a little flutter on this, especially if you're like looking to if you're the type of personality that likes outside bets. He's somebody that can stink up a round quite easily, you know. And I can see Alice Garoff running in, maybe with like a flying knee or something, messing it up, and Muniz can just control you on the ground. Um, the problem is Alice Garoff can he can reverse you and he can like beat you up on the ground as well. So this can put it this way: if you're going to bet Muniz, you might look a little bit stupid. So you got to be prepared to feel that way if because Alice Garoff could make it real easy. But at those odds, I really fancy Muniz for this one.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because when you look at both guys' records, that they've had against lesser competition, they've both looked really strong. But when they've came up against someone that's a little bit more top tier, that's where they seem to struggle. I mean, you've got Aliskerov, he's a Sambo guy. His name ends with "ov," so we already kind of know what we're going to get from him. His only two losses are to Robert Whitaker and Khamzat Chimaev on the regional scene, which are two big names. And then you look at Muniz, and his two recent losses have been to Paul Craig and Brendan Allen, which is again two really high level guys. I
Yeah,
look at it and I do think is Muniz there to be fed to Aliskerov, and are they looking to build another Russian guy up? That's where my eyes are with this fight.
I think so. I mean, it's kind of that bounce back ability kind of setup fight after Robert Whitaker. Maybe the UFC are kind of giving him that. But he's got two Kimura wins, I think, by like Alice Garov. So he's no slouch on the ground. Obviously, he's Russian, so everybody from that area of the world knows how to wrestle. But um, like you said, I'm not sure. Like Muniz, he's not to be messed with either. And I think like the big thing about him, the question mark is like his inactivity. I don't think he's fought since 2023. Um, so that's a factor as well, whether he's been injured, whether he's fit to fight. But I think it's just worth a risk, you know, and placing a small amount of points on Muniz. That's what I think. I'm prepared to look really stupid when he loses, but you know that's it's all a bit of fun at the end of the day.
It's not a bad bet as well because we have seen a lot of times wrestlers get overconfident when they're on top and they come up against someone with really good jiu-jitsu, which Andre Muniz is, like you say, he's very good on the bottom. He's got a couple of well, quite a few submission wins. He's definitely a submission threat. So I think I agree with you on that one. The sensible head sort of tell says Aliskerov, but those odds, like this, like you say, 4-1. I think it's a great little bet there. I really do.
Especially over 3 rounds, you know. I mean, if he's able to control him on the ground for round one, it starts to get a little bit more desperate, and that's when mistakes are made. So again, like I think he is good. He could get reversed, and he like Aliskerov could end up on top and beating him up. But a 4-1, I think is just a bit crazy price for me. So I'm prepared to like have a little flutter on that, just to you know being prepared to look stupid, like I said.
And the safe betting is probably less of a better in me. Is probably going to go Alice Croft in this. So one of us is probably going to looked after at the end of this one.
I mean, like, yeah, you can bet Aliskerov, but you can't celebrate too much. I mean, if you have 100 quid on, you're gonna win £18 or something. So like, yeah, good luck to you.
So moving on down the card, and the next fight on this one, we've got Randy Brown taking on Nicholas Dolby. So Randy Brown is almost a little bit of a welterweight gatekeeper, if you like. He's got 12 finishes to his name. He's coming off a loss. He's facing Nicholas Dolby, who, despite the fact that he's at the age of 40, he's never been knocked out. And, he's a UFC guy who got cut earlier in his career, went back to Cage Warriors, recovered, built himself back up, got back into the UFC. Where are your eyes on this one? What are you thinking?
I love Dalby. I really like him. Actually, I was watching his fight against Darren Till earlier on Fight Pass, and I haven't seen it before, and that is a fun fight to watch if anybody's looking for
What a fight.
for some 15 minutes of entertainment. But what was quite like surprising to me is the difference in physique of Darby. He wasn't chubby, but like he had six pack, so he looked good. But like his physique these days is like incredible. So you can tell he's taking his training like super seriously. He's eating the right things, and again he's an underdog in this fight. And I think if he's likely to survive. Like you said, he's never been knocked out. And I think if he can get to round 2 and 3, Randy Brown has shown like elements of like cardio, fatigue. I think like Darby can take over, and he might even get the finish. But I think it's going to be an amazing fight, that's for sure. But it's just surviving that backhand from Randy Brown. If he can do that, I think it's going to be Nicholas Dalby by decision. Another underdog for you. There you go.
This is, to be honest, I agree with you. And like, I went through this fight card from top to bottom, and I didn't look at the odds before I decided who my money was going on. And I immediately singled out Dolby as my favourite for this fight, and then found that he was the dog, which really surprised me. I
Yeah.
understand it from, like, Randy Brown's higher in the rankings, but I agree with you. I think Nicholas Dolby's a really good bet, and that's where my points are going to be going in this fight for sure, 100%.
I think fair few people are backing Derby as well. I can see the 436, but I thought more than that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot more players who pick Nicholas Derby over Randy Brown. I think, have they both fought Brian Battle? I'm not sure. I know that Randy Brown had that like dubious decision. Was it a split decision win where everybody was like booing against Brian Battle? I'm
Yep.
not sure if Derby has fought him as well. Maybe. I don't know. I've looked at a lot of Tapology today, so mine's playing tricks on me. But um, I think that's impressive to take Brian Battle to a decision and almost win it. He should have got the decision, but he's no joke, Randy Brown. Let's put it that way. And I think it's just going to be an amazing fight to watch anyway.
It's definitely a bit of a sleeper for fight of the night. And the next fight on this card, it sort of plays in when I say sleeper for fight of the night. We've got Michel Pereira, who an absolute. I'm a massive fan of Pereira. I think he's obviously been around a while. He's been on quite a lot of undercards for big fight nights. He's got a very flashy style. He's very eccentric, and he's taking on another guy whose name ends in ov, in Abu Magomedov. This could go anywhere. This fight. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm like they've both suffered with cardio, these two, so it could be just a 2 minute slugfest, let's say. But Again, I'm going to go with the underdog. I like Magomedov. I think he's fought better opponents. I think Pereira, he has. I remember like watching him like a few years ago and just thinking he could be like the next big thing at middleweight. You know, I think he was fighting a welterweight and he just looked huge for that division. And stepping up to middleweight, I thought he could really make a run and be a contender there. Hasn't quite happened, and I think his like issues are just with cardio, especially at this level, are going to show in this fight. And I think Magomedov's just got like the tools to pick him apart. So 3 fights in so far, and I've picked 3 outsiders.
You know what? I agree with you on this one as well. I think Michel Pereira was on an amazing run. He was going through people for a long time, and there was quite a few underdog wins that he picked up. Like you say, he was really good at welterweight, moved up to middleweight, continued to have a lot of success. But that loss that he's coming off the back of to Anthony Hernandez, who is a very, very good grappler, and that I think paints a real big picture for this fight. If he's struggling with Anthony Hernandez, he's probably going to struggle with the skill set of Abu Magomedov as well, I think.
Oh, Fluffy Hernandez is just a beast, though, isn't he? I mean, he's a super tough opponent, but like Pereira's just got like a lot of wasted energy. He needs a really good. Well, I think he could have the best coach in the world and still wouldn't listen to him. He's that kind of fighter. He doesn't have the IQ.
And
He's got the talent, obviously, but he just can't. He just gets really excited. He's happy to be in there. You could tell that he loves fighting, but he just hasn't got the gas tank. So I think Magomedov takes this one.
I think so too, and this is where I think after my disaster of a couple of weeks, and in particular getting sucked in majorly into Bryce Mitchell and throwing all my Pyjamas points on him at those odds, I'm building right back up from the bottom now, and the 2 fights that I've got my eyes on are the one we spoke about previously with Dolby, and I think that this is where the remainder of my points are going on Magomedov, and hopefully we can get 2 underdog wins in a row.
Oh mate, I fell into that Bryce Mitchell trap as well. But the odds were just too generous, and I think in that fight. So not to keep going on about it, I've beat myself up. Do you know what hurts the most is that I really fancied Dan Ige against Sean Woodson, and I only had like 100 points on him. So I should have went with my head rather than with Bryce Mitchell. But it was just too tempting, those odds, wasn't it? So you had to do it.
Exactly. Sometimes the value it sucks you in, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's how you win it, mate. That's how you win the competition. You gotta take some risks, you know.
Yeah,
you're not gonna win it by like pitter pattering around. You need to go balls deep, as they say.
Right, so rounding out the main card before we start to get on to the main and the co-main, and we've got Giga Chikadze facing David Onama. And this one is a really interesting fight, I think. So Chikadze was on an absolute storming run. He was on an 8-fight win streak. Then he came across Calvin Kattar. We talked about gatekeepers of divisions, and Calvin Kattar is a great example. Struggled in that fight, took the loss, came back with a win, then faced Arnold Allen and took another loss there. So we're coming off a loss in this fight, but he's got a very exciting style. 9 knockouts, a striker, obviously from the 9 knockouts. David Onama, a bit of a mixed bag, because in one sense he looks very, very good. But then I think losses to guys like Mason Jones and Nate the Train sort of indicate that Onama might not be at the highest level, but this one really intrigues me because Chikadze, rather, he's 36 now. Obviously, those 2 losses are going to be hitting quite hard, so he's probably past his prime. Anama's coming into his prime, so this one's quite an interesting fight. I've marked down Chikadze as my bet purely based on experience at a higher level. Where are your eyes looking at this from a betting perspective?
People are going to think we're just copying each other here. But I think like that Arnold Allen fight and against Giga Chikadze was super close actually. Um, he did win Arnold Allen, but every round was really, really close. There was only like a few punches or a minute of control time in it. Um, and he gave a game effort, and Arnold Allen is a beast, I
Yeah,
think. You're right. Like the way I think about bets, and like everybody can has their own kind of way of breaking down fights and stuff like that. But sometimes I just like put it into my own experiences. And these kind of fights, when you come up against like an experienced fighter against a new like up and comer, I think they know all these tactics that can beat these new guys, you know. Um, so where I take myself is I used to play tennis at club level, you know, not very good, but when I was like practicing, I could hit a ball with my coach like really well. People would like watch and be impressed. The minute I would step in and like play a match against somebody that knew how to win at tennis, they could have been like 50 years old and just drag me all around the court, just using their experience and their know-how of like how to win a fight or how to win a tennis match. And I think these like fights and opportunities for like David Anama against like an experienced fighter like Giga, I think it's going to be a rough night for him. So I'm going to pick Giga Chikadze for this one. Using my tennis knowledge and life experience, nothing else at all. Just this is just a throw in a dart, and seeing what happens. But I really like Giga. Let's go.
I think you're right in exactly what you're saying, and interesting that I love the tennis analogy. But when you look back at the guys that Chikadze's beat, and I know these two names in particular may be a little bit over the hill, but you've got Edson Barboza, you've got a KO win against Barboza, you've got the first round TKO against Cub Swanson. You've got a decision win against Alex Caceres. And despite the fact that these guys are towards the end of their careers during these three fights, that shows that Chikadze's got the know-how, he's got the fight IQ. And then, as we mentioned earlier, with Owen Armour and coming up a little bit short against guys who'd be a little bit less experienced than particularly these three names. I think
Yeah.
when you put those two things together and you sort of whack them in your MMA math calculator, I think it's coming out with a Chikadze win. I really do.
Well, it's quite a similar fight to well, not that similar actually, but Ryan Barcelos against Peyton Talbot. You know, like
Yeah.
he's the up and comer, but Barcelos just knew how to beat him. He knew how to stink up a fight. He knew that he couldn't sit back and watch like Peyton Talbot like dance around and use his technical ability. He had to make that fight dirty, and I think Giga's got like similar experience, and I think, but Anama's super powerful as well, so he could knock him out and make me look a little bit stupid after my tennis rant. But yeah, I this is another fight to watch. I think it's a great card on paper. This main
Oh
event
man.
is like this main card is stacked.
Oh, it's brilliant for a fight night card, and especially it's felt a little bit like we've been starved of good cards. I mean, don't get me wrong, a couple of weeks back, 314, very good card, but it sort of took 3 months for us to get there. And it's nice
Yeah.
to see now that we're starting to build up. Maybe it's the journey to International Fight Week where we start to see the standard build up a little bit, but it's a very, very good card.
Well, even looking forward, they seem to be struggling. They got nothing booked in for International Fight Week, and apparently DDP has said that they didn't have the fight signed with Chimaev either. So I'm not really sure what's going on with the UFC at the moment. But yeah, this is one to get excited about. That's for sure.
Well, I think a few people. I'm not seeing it from any reputable sources, so I'm not going to sit here and say this is happening. But there's a lot of Topuria Makachev talk,
Oh, it's got to happen,
and that
please,
that could
please.
save International Fight Week right there.
I just want to see that fight so bad. It's yeah. Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Everything crossed.
Yeah.
So moving into the co-main now, and we've got it's another really good fight. So we've got Anthony Lionheart Smith in what looks like it's going to be his retirement fight, and he's taking on a guy on an 11 fight win streak in Ming Yang Zhang. this could be an absolute banger of a fight.
This would be such an Anthony Smith way. Like this would be such an Anthony Smith thing to do, is to like come out and win on his retirement fight. You know, he's well, he's had like such a long career now, um, but I just can't see it. I can't see it, and I'll tell you why. Is I'm not sure if you listen to like Believe Me You Me with Michael Bisping. Do you listen to his podcast? Um, for like the last 3 years, after every fight, Anthony Smith has been like talking about retiring. You know, it just seems to be always in the back of his mind, and um, and recently he's had like some personal troubles, but like emotionally, he just doesn't look like he's there anymore, and I just can't see it being that dramatic of a change to come back, get pumped up for this fight, and like go out there and take a man like like Zhang out. You know, this is going to be like a tough night for Anthony Smith, but who knows if he can survive the first round. He's got that experience. Maybe he can stink up like the first round, get it to the ground, and take it to a decision. That's the only way I could see him really win in this fight. But Anthony Smith is always full of surprises, isn't he?
Well, that's the problem with this fight, is that just when you think Anthony Smith's done and it's over, he seems to pull something out the bag. I mean, his sort of last 5 or 6 fights, you've got, he loses to Ankalaev, he loses to Johnny Walker, then he gets a win over Ryan Spann, then
Yeah,
he gets knocked out by Khalil Roundtree Jr., and then manages to like pull that guillotine out the bag against Petrino. That was just not what anyone, I don't think, was expecting at all. Now he's off the back of 2 losses, but 2 losses to Roman Dolidze and Dominic Reyes, who, I mean, Dolidze's been looking pretty decent. Dominic Reyes seems to have rolled the clock back to like 2013 and just started running through people again.
yeah.
And
But Delite is a middleweight, right? And he was fighting Smith at light heavyweight,
yeah,
like this is what I mean. He's just so
you
unpredictable.
don't know what you're gonna get.
But but like he is 4-1. So if you were gonna if you had to choose, right, between Anthony Smith and Muniz, Andre Muniz, which one would you pick? You know, you might as well pick them both because you're getting 4-1 on each one. But you might be tempted to go with Anthony Smith, just given how the story would just be amazing. Like his retirement fight, he's coming in facing a guy who knocks people out in first rounds and finds a way to win. It would just be like an incredible story. But in reality, this is the one I can't see.
See now, this is where I've sort of gone.
I'm talking you out of it
interesting
now,
because,
aren't I?
well, I'd got, and I'm going to stick to my guns. I'd got Anthony Smith down in this fight, and that's purely because when you look at the guys that Ming Yang's fought, I don't think he's really fought someone that. Yes, it's an over the hill Anthony Smith. This isn't, this is another situation where this isn't 2015. Like this is not the Anthony Smith that fought John Jones, but this is still a very, very experienced guy, and I just feel as though this is the perfect opportunity for Anthony Smith to be getting beaten up, and then somehow, maybe he might start having one of those weird arguments in the cage again and start, don't hurt my family. Maybe we might get a little bit of that, and he just pull a submission out the bag.
Yeah.
That's where that might be my heart speaking, because we've seen so much from Smith over the years.
When we do these odds images that we post on Instagram to like to display what the fighters' odds are for the game, we like scroll through all the fighters' Instagram pages and trying to find like the perfect photo which is suitable to look good, and we put the odds in there and stuff. If you look at Anthony Smith, like if you scroll down far enough to Anthony Smith's like early days, he's his physique is like huge, There's not like an ounce of fat on him. He's ripped. He's got like huge biceps, and then if you scroll up, it just looks like he's just aged, like withering now. And I think he should have retired like a while ago. I think he got lucky with Petrino. Like he was silly, he jumped the gilly and it pulled off. And I think this is just it's harsh that he's fighting like a real Chinese prospect as well. So I think he's going to get knocked out in round one. But I hope I'm wrong, and I hope, like brutally honest, he's gone all in on Anthony Smith. So it's a season winning move if he pulls it off. So let's see.
It'd make a lovely fairy tale, wouldn't it,
Yeah,
if we could get an Anthony Smith win?
yeah.
Now moving on to the main event. What a fight this is. Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates. Garry fighting down the rankings again, which I think you've got to commend him for. And not only is he fighting down the rankings, but he's also fighting one of the fighting nerds in Carlos Prates. He's on an 11 fight win streak, and 10 of those have been finished by a KO or TKO. He's a super dangerous striker. So it's a very risky fight for Ian Garry. What are you? Can Carlos Prates do it again? Can he take Garry down?
I think he can. Yeah, I think he can. I think Prates is like super dangerous, but I got a lot of time for Ian Garry as well. I think he's an incredible fighter. He's got this reputation, like on the internet, where people like to slate him. He's like got this image of being a kind of like vegan, yeah, soy milk latte drinking like femboy. but nothing can be further from the truth, I think. I mean, just look at what he does. You know, he goes around the world like to different camps, like different training partners, different coaches, and people will mistake that for not being loyal to like a certain gym. But actually, what that is he's a craftsman, and he's like building, sharpening his tools, using different styles. He's gone to Brazil. You know, he trains out with shooter box. He's learned Portuguese. You know, all this has the virtues of a man who is like who is progressing. He wants to learn. He's got this like drive in him. And then you got Prates, who smokes 20 cigarettes a day. So it's like it's such an amazing matchup. I didn't think we needed it, but now it's been made. I'm so excited for this. And Prates is a bad dude as well. He reminds me a lot of like a welterweight Charles Oliveira. Just the way he uses his like teep kicks. He can like stand on one foot with knees up the middle. He's nasty, you know. He's like aggressive, but he's also got this piston of like a left hand that can knock anyone out. And over this last like 3 fights, I think he's just got more and more confident in this left hand, and I think that is going to be the weapon that knocks out Ian Garry. So I'm going to go Prates like KO.
I think he's a very good example of this new generation of fighters that we seem to be seeing now, who are that confident in their BJJ that it allows them to not fear the takedown and open up.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it from, I mean, it's not necessarily even just the Brazilian guys. I mean, Paddy Pimblett is a prime example of that approach of, you know, take me down if you want, but because I've got that confidence, let's stand and throw.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of, like you say, Charles Oliveira is a brilliant example because he's probably the pioneer, if you like, of that fighting style, albeit he tends to grab older people a lot more frequently than some of the fighting nerds boys do.
Yeah.
But he's definitely this sort of new style. But I'll be honest, I can't look past Ian Garry. I think, like you say, not only he hones his craft, he's good everywhere. His striking's good, his wrestling's good, his jiu-jitsu's good. And what I also think really stands out about Ian Garry is he's got really good fight IQ. And I think that you're going to go into this fight knowing of the dangers of Prates. And I think he's going to try and turn it into a grappling match. I really do. I think he's going to be definitely looking to mix in a lot more wrestling than we used to, but for Ian Garry, purely because I think that little bit of, I wouldn't quite call it fear, but that sort of cautiousness about that big left hand that Prates has got. Gary's going to want to keep him close. There's going to be a lot of clinch work. I think that there's going to be a lot of submission attempts coming out of Ian Garry, and that's where I think this fight's going to go. I mean, I watched the Shavkat Rachmanov fight back a couple of weeks ago, and Garry was really unlucky. He was very unlucky that the submission that he nearly got was,
That was
another.
close.
It was so close to being there, and it was a rare instance where someone can step up and fight Shavkat, who's probably realistically the best in welterweight there. I think if we need to see the Bilal Shavkat fight to really find out, but for Garry to go up against Shavkat and compete so well, especially in those grappling exchanges, just shows how good he is. So I know it's the safe bet. I know I'm not going to make a lot of money out of this one, but Ian Garry's my guy in this. I can't see past him.
One thing that is we need to mention, which is quite a big deal, I think, is Prates has like almost a 4-inch reach advantage, which is basically another fist on top of Ian Garry's fist. Like Ian Garry has like super long legs as well, and he uses that like a back head kick. Like that's going to be a weapon that Prates needs to be wary of. But I just think that the Prates, he can move forward, and he brings like knees up the middle. He's like this bony guy, like I'm not sure if he used to play football, but there was this like one kid who used to play in my team, and he was so slender, similar like build to Prates, but every time you try and tackle him, you would always come off worse just because he was so bony, and it would just always hurt, like going up for like a throw in, or like or trying to like go for a header. His elbow would dig into your ribs and it would like kill, and it just reminds me of like what Ian Garry is gonna face against Prates. It's just gonna be a nightmare for him. It's gonna be painful, and we all like I'll be so impressed if Ian Garry can pull it off, and I think stepping up, taking this fight against like a dangerous dude who's 13, like ranked number 13, just shows you the kind of guy that Ian Garry is. He's just he's a bad motherfucker, and people should start putting some respect on his name,
100%. And I think this is probably, if Garry can get a dominant win here, then I don't think anyone will be questioning him. I think that will put an end to any doubts in Ian Garry's ability.
He is cringy though, isn't he? You can't help it. He's like if Colby is the king of cringe, then Ian Garry's the queen, I would say. He can't help it, but that doesn't mean that he's a bad fighter. He's incredible, and what he does in the cage is amazing, and he's showing like really good improvements. But I just think that Prates is a future champ in this division. And also, I watched that Shavkat fight earlier today, and it wasn't as close as I thought it was watching it the first time. I thought that Shavkat did win. He was close to getting subbed, but I think like I took two things out of that, like watching that back. It was probably 4-1 to Shavkat, even though all three judges scored it 3-2. And also, I don't think Shavkat is gonna be a welterweight champion. I don't think he's good enough. I think there's a lot of hype behind him, and I think like Ian Garry kind of exposed him. Maybe I've said something wrong there. It's gonna come back to bite me, but I don't think he's gonna be the welterweight champion. I think Bilal is gonna reign for a while. I think.
I completely understand where you're coming from, and I think until you see Garry or Shavkat face Bilal,
yeah,
because they've fought each other, but from a high level perspective, they haven't really they haven't had too many fights that were at quite that level. So I think when either of them fights Bilal, how that goes will tell you how good both of them are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree. It's like, well, we want to see everybody fight everybody, and we're at a stage now in the UFC where there's a kind of overall like decision that, oh, I'm not going to fight this guy, or I'm not going to fight that. I'm waiting for this, or it's not like it used to be, you know. And I think too many fighters have that opinion that they have some kind of power on who they pick. They're not like Paddy Pimlet, you know, like shouting out, "I want any of these four," instead of like saying, "I want to fight for the title next," which seems to be the said thing these days. Like Paddy.
Rounding
Uh,
things off, JPL. We've spoken a lot on this episode about silk pajamas and where we're putting our money or our points, should I say. So, for anyone that hasn't played the game, give us a little run through. Talk us through the concept. Talk us through how it works.
Sure, it's a picks game basically, but it's using like points as a balance. Everybody starts with the same amount. Like next season is going to be 1,000 points and three wild cards. The season lasts for 5 rounds. You accumulate points as you go, so you can do what you want with your points. You can spread them over a few fighters or many fighters, or just go all in on one fighter. And then depending on the result, you go into round two with more or less points, and you try and build it back up. What we wanted to try and do is make this game so you're risking something. You wanted to like we wanted it to feel kind of like a fight. Every round is a little bit different. You need to have strategy. You need to either like to like build your points up gradually. But by the end of the last round, there's no point in finishing like second or third. You have to go all in, and that just creates chaos in the final round, as you know. So yeah, I'm pretty bad at my own game, unfortunately. But I'm hoping that Carlos Prates will do the job. I've gone all in with how many points? 695 points with my KO wildcard. So I hope he can get me further up the rankings than I am now.
And I suppose save face because you can't have the co-creator and co-founder sitting at the bottom of the table, can we?
I've been tempted to fix the game, but obviously I can't do that. I would get called out immediately. But yeah, it's a bit of fun, and we've asked a lot of the creators and the Twitter accounts and people with like a reasonable following to play along. So you can play against like all of your favorite subscribers. You can play against me and yourself. And it's all just a bit of fun at the end of the day, but it does mean something, you know. It's difficult to win it. It's really hard to win it. So if you do, then you've actually done something. You've earned a place in the Hall of Fame for forever, hopefully.
I mean, I've been trying the last couple of months, like the last couple of rounds. I know I've gone for the play it steady right the way to the end, and then throw the kitchen sink, cut it out for the best. And so far, the best didn't come.
Well, that's what you got to do. Like the game is, you have to take a risk sooner or later if you want to if you want to win it. You know, I think the last champion, he picked Chris Duncan. He went all in. He had, I think he used two wild cards in one pick. So it was submission and decision. It went to a decision. He won, and I think he was like a 3-1 underdog. And he won like 18,000 points. So yeah, congratulations to Nick, I think. But yeah, it's just chaos, mate. We love it. I think you did all right, actually. You've been doing all right the last two seasons. Are you enjoying it?
The end. Oh, it's a really good little crack. I have been
Yeah,
quite enjoying it, to be honest. It's
it's
been
good.
really, really good. It's nice to, like you say, a lot of other content creators are in the app. There's even been appearances from a couple of fighters themselves as well that I've
Yeah.
seen on the leaderboards once or twice. So everyone's getting involved. Like,
Yeah, we had Jack Shaw in the first season,
yeah,
which was awesome. Yeah, I mean, like being a Welshman, it was good to reach out to Jack, and he played for a season, which was awesome. Yeah, so it is a lot of fun, and we're enjoying just like being a part of the community and building a product and reaching out to people, and this is how chats like this happen. So like we're obviously very grateful for that and your time.
Of course, it's been a good crack. And we're
Saying
on.
that, do you want to do the £10 charity bet?
I think that'd be a good idea.
So you can choose the charity and you can go first with the pick.
Oh, right. So, the charity I'll choose is something that's quite close to my heart. It's a charity called Fight for Autism. One of the patrons for this charity is one of the Cage Warriors fighters. His name's Chris Price. He's currently 6-1, and he's someone who has personal experiences of fighting through autism. For him, what really helped him was getting into combat sports, getting into jiu-jitsu, getting into wrestling, and it really helped him to develop as he was learning and growing with that sort of illness. I've
Yeah.
got a couple of friends who have little ones that have also been growing up through it that have faced a lot of challenges, and that charity does a lot of work within that area. So that's where I would like to put our first week in that pot.
Sounds like a great cause. Let's try and make them some money.
Right. And you know what? I'm gonna go for underdog, but I'm not gonna go for one of the huge underdogs because I do actually want to win these guys some money.
Good.
So I'm gonna go for Giga Chikadze.
Okay.
And I'm gonna just go for the win. I'm not gonna get too cocky. That's where I'm gonna make my pick. Where are you thinking?
Well, I've had my points on Carlos Prates, so I think I might mix it up a little bit, and I think I'm gonna go with Magomedov. Magomedov or Dalby? Whichever one I choose, the other one's gonna win, isn't it? So I'm gonna go with Magomedov.
Right, so we've got a double. Giga Chikadze, Abu Magomedov.
I'll stick a tenner on. I'll post it on Twitter, and then hopefully it wins, and we can send some money to what was the charity called?
Fight for Autism.
Fight for Autism. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Come on.
JPL, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. Great fun breaking this fight night card down.
Yeah, mate. Let's keep it going. We'll do it again for sure.
100% sound. Brilliant. Fantastic.
Nice one, George.
Nice
Appreciate
one,
it, mate.